All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Monday morning coffee chat. I've got my coffee right here, and I am joined today by one of my very favorite friends who you all may know, my friend Daniela Wedel. Good morning, or guten Tag, or bonjour.
Bonjour, good morning, guten Tag.
So for those of you that don't know Daniela, she has worked at Rick Steves for, gosh, what, maybe 15 years? Something like that?
17.
17. Wow. Yeah, I remember when you were hired. That's crazy. So we've been friends for many, many years. Daniela is originally from Munich in Bavaria, but has lived all over the place and currently resides in Avignon in France. So you're kind of a pan-European kind of person because you also guide in Italy, you guide all over the place, right?
I think so. I think you're right. I consider myself as a European. It's true. So I was born in Munich, Bavaria. I grew up there. My family is from there. I've studied there, studied art history, photography, archaeology there, and then moved to France. In between, I lived in Wales, northern Wales in the mountains. I spent quite some time studying also in Italy, in Florence. So and now I lived first in Normandy. I don't know even if you remember that. I lived in Normandy up there.
Yeah.
In Caen.
Okay.
In Caen for 3 years. That's where I went to university to learn French. And then I moved down here now for 15 years or 16 years. I'm in Avignon, just 100 kilometers north of Marseille. Yeah, wow. The Mediterranean.
The Avignon's a really beautiful area that's a little bit off the tourist track. It's maybe not kind of like the top of the tourist list, but actually it does have a lot to see. I haven't been there in some years, but there's the...
Well, it is. I mean, Provence, everyone knows Provence. Everyone knows Avignon and something with the Pope, that there was something with the Pope. So the Pope was here in exile in the 14th century. If you wonder now, what was it? And but then you have all these, it's here actually where you have this Arles, Nîmes, Pont du Gard, Avignon. So you have a lot of class Orange, Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So you have a lot of Roman traces here in that area. So this is this part, but people I think are more familiar with the Côte d'Azur, with Nice, Antibes, Cannes, which is also Provence, and it's not so far from here. So we are inland. So it has a lot of similarity to Tuscany, I would say.
Yeah, I spent a little time there on vacation last year, and I could have spent a month just there. I think we only spent like 3 or 4 days there, but boy, I could have spent a long time going to Orange and going to Pont du Gard. It's fantastic.
Try a lot of wine.
So Daniela, we've known each other a long time, and I'm just kind of thinking like, it would be fun to talk about things maybe I don't know about you. So I don't actually know why you became a guide, because I know you used to work for a different company, for more of an active like biking company, but what brought you to being a tour guide?
Well, so first I studied art history in Munich, and I did work there in galleries, into art in galleries. Did my photography. I worked in museums there, so there was some guiding experience already. All kinds of internships also in the museum, so there was guiding. Then I moved to France, and then and then I finished my studies here, and I wrote about Eugène Boudin, who is the teacher of. I don't know if you know that. He's a teacher of Monet. Teacher, or he inspired Monet to paint outside, actually. Eugène Boudin. He is famous for his landscapes, beach scenes, and so on in Normandy. And so I finished then my studies, and then I needed a job, and my French was not so good yet. So it was relatively limited what I could do, and I literally went. It's maybe not very exciting, I don't know, but I went to the employment center, to the job center, and there was an annonce. So there was a how do you say that, annonce? They were looking. So there was a company called Backroads. Voilà, so that's the company, American company Backroads. They were looking for guides in France, and they have a seat here also, actually just outside of Avignon. And so they were looking for guides. And so I applied, and they invited me. And it was that time, so around 2000, was that time, Czech Republic was very popular. A lot of people wanted to go there. It opened up. And so I worked a lot with Backroads. So it's the hiking and biking company. Activity, they work out of Berkeley. So I worked with them for a couple of years or 3 years. And so that's how I got to guiding with an American public, actually. And this was very good for me because my English was really very, it's okay now, my English was really very bad. I actually almost failed school because of English.
What?
And yeah, it was the worst. I didn't like it at all. It was horrible. And so then I improved my English quite a bit with them. There was not so much public speaking because it was, of course, there was the contact with the Americans and speaking at the dinner and so on, but it was not like doing speeches and talks like we do with Rick Steves or with other companies or now on my own tours. And so I got used to it, and that was very good. And then I started working for Rick Steves. Exactly. So we worked parallel a little bit, and then 17 years ago. Yeah. So that's how I got into guiding with Americans. Otherwise, here I guide also sometimes with Germans, Swiss. We have a lot of Europeans coming here. So French, I don't guide. I speak fluent French, but generally there are French guides that do that. So yes, that's how I started out.
So what brought you to living in France other than your studies? I mean, you could have just come and studied and then moved back to Bavaria. So why did you stay in France?
Yes, could have. Back in that time, that is another connection actually to Seattle also. I came to France with my former husband, who was a professional basketball player, and he had signed a contract with Caen, he's from Seattle. I don't know if you remember. And he had signed a contract with a team in Normandy. And so we came here, and then every season we moved around. So we stayed sometimes for 2 years, then we stayed for a couple of years in Avignon. Well, he's my former husband. We're good friends, so it's okay. So he lives now in Geneva. I live here, and but that's why I came here. And then, even though we split up, I never had the feeling to go back to Munich. Even though I love it, fortunately I can go there quite often in the year when I work, and I do tours also up there. So it's a wonderful city. It's a beautiful city. The area, I mean, you know it. So I think it is, particularly in summer. Well, actually also in winter with the snow. It's beautiful. But I'm very happy here in France. It's different, certainly. Again, in the south is different than the north in Normandy, but I enjoy very, very much living here. Yeah. So.
Well, and I think in terms of just your personality, you definitely have more of a French vibe than you do of a German vibe. But I would say that is one of the things that you and I have in common, and I really like about having, great relationships with people kind of in this vein. It's this sort of not being of a certain country, and you and I have talked about that before, about how strange it is to live in the margins of cultures, how you can be from one culture, but actually you relate to a different culture and you kind of fit in with a foreign culture better than you do your own culture, Yep.
I think it's with time, obviously it changes. First, it's just everything is different. A big role plays obviously the language. Well, that you speak the language, but so now after all that time, when I go back to it is interesting. When I go back to Germany, or particularly in Munich, then again, because also in Germany, it's like in the United States. I mean, there are differences between south, north, or east, west, and it's the same, even though geographically it's smaller, but it's the same. So when I go to Bavaria or to Munich, it feels very comfortable, and I know what's going on. You have the feeling, it's this home feeling where you just understand. You just understand the people beyond everything. And but nevertheless, I'm sitting often when I arrive at the airport, and I sit in the subway. Then I look around and I listen and I look, and it's all great and wonderful. And often I think like, yeah, well, that's not me. That's not totally me. And I have the feeling people also look at me as if I'm not from there, actually. So as if I'm a tourist. So it's quite interesting. But then at the same time, I know I'm not French. I know that very well, and I am. There are situations where I act differently, and this is very clear. So it is this in between cultures, what we see. I mean, a lot of people living through, and this can be in a good way or in a bad, being torn apart between cultures. I personally feel that I'm in a lucky situation where I see it as an advantage to have views from several sides, and so. Yeah, it is. It's very enriching. I do see also sometimes. I don't know. Do you do that too? That sometimes when I want things to be done on time, then I'm very German. Then I'm always telling my friends here, my French friends, yeah, but you have to understand, I'm German, so you need to be there on time. And when I'm in Germany, let's say, and my friends, they say we meet at 7:00 and I arrive at 7:20. I mean, just this example for being late. And they said, well, why are you so late? And I said, well, I'm coming from southern France, so I'm on time. No, it's pretty much good. So,
oh yeah, believe me, like, how much time I've spent in Sicily. It's just like, there are days that I am totally comfortable and I'm relaxed and I just roll with it because I totally get the culture. And I really feel that culture. I think in the same way you feel French culture, it's just, it feels right in my soul to be there. Like, I feel like I fit in there better than I do in the States. But then there are other days when I'm just like, for God's sakes, do it. Just get things done and get it done on time. And how is this hard for you guys? So yeah, I think that there are certain things you can't avoid about being.
No. It is at different levels. It's really it's what I think what is it's culture. It's these things also with the year. It's more and more, and well, now we have a lot of time to think about all these things. But it's the things that you cannot explain, where it's just different, and where I at least I feel like I cannot explain why I just exactly understand this person, where this person is coming from. It's this just there is this it's I guess where you grew up, where you have your so it's but as said, so I feel very fortunate, lucky, however one wants to call it, to have been grown up in the Alps and now living here like really 80 kilometers inland from the Mediterranean. Yes, 2 days ago I was down at the Mediterranean in Camargue, which was wonderful. I went with the scooter and spent my day at the sea, and coming back then flamingos, salt, mountains, a beautiful, beautiful area. And then if I go the other direction, I have the mountains close. I go a lot of biking still, so I don't know, Mont Ventoux, the Tour de France, and all these peaks I love to ride there. So it's nice.
It's such a cool area down there. I actually hadn't spent so much time there until last summer. And one of the things that really struck me is the Camargue region down there is like cowboy culture. I had no idea there was such a thing as French cowboys.
Oh, they are. It's a mixture between, isn't it, the cowboy, because it is really, I mean, you have the cowboy and you have the rodeo kind of idea, but then also the bullfight idea, of course, with the course camarguaise. These bullfights where they tease the bull. It's more like a rodeo. They don't kill the bull.
We saw both. We saw both on vacation last year. The village that we had the little maison in, they had a bullfight as well as they did the rodeo. But I love that how the cowboys, they don't wear cowboy shirts like the American ones do. They're all floral.
I can show you. Should I show you one? I have one here.
Yeah. Do you have one?
Beautiful one. Oh.
Okay, cool. So a little interlude here while she goes and she gets a prop. This is like such an interesting thing. I don't know if any of you out there have ever heard about this kind of French cowboy culture, but it is crazy. And all these little villages in the Camargue. And Camargue is right down on the very south of France. Oh, look at that.
Well, it's these patterns. They have often these paisley patterns, and it's very colorful. That's what they always wear. Yeah, it's not the checkered cowboy. Even though, so they have the hat. Otherwise, they have the black trousers on, no, and the hat, not a cowboy hat, a different hat. And the women have these beautiful dresses, no, and the white horses, black bulls, and and then the course camarguaise. Were you explaining it just now?
I was just saying something about it, but the thing is that I guess I don't know how I'd missed that this was a thing that existed in the world, because I had only seen it for the first time last summer. And then when we were in Arles, all the women walked through, the men had their horses and they were in their outfits and the women had on the dresses. It reminded me of being in Spain. And it was the strangest thing. I had never seen that kind of culture before in France. So yeah, had no idea.
It is when you go Camargue from down, it's interesting because you really just go, I don't know, 40 kilometers, all is 40 kilometers or 35 kilometers from here. And then you have a very Spanish influence. Okay, the border, how far is the border then? Still 200 kilometers, 150 kilometers along the Mediterranean, Perpignan and all that. But you see also in the restaurants, you have a lot of paella and people's names are, and a lot of Spanish people live, or Spanish origin live there. And also food culture is very much influenced by Spain. Very quickly changes that. And you don't have, when you come north of, there's a river running here, the Durance. When you come north of it, you don't have bullfights. South, you have everywhere in all the villages. That's what you saw, the stadiums, the small ones. Where they have the bullfight. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I had absolutely no idea. Spanish culture is crazy. It really has spread everywhere, hasn't it? I mean, more than just about any culture, it influences so many things. One of the things I want that you are into that I think is really cool is you do a lot of art photography. And I was wondering if you would be so kind as to share with us a few of your images and things that you do for art photography.
Yes. Oh, well, too. I said, so I studied art history, photography, archaeology. So that is with me already for quite a long time, art in all kind of different ways. And when I was still living in Munich, I was working in the galleries. Then here in Avignon, a couple of years ago, I had a gallery, a photography gallery with a friend together. So a physical walk-in gallery. Then it became kind of complicated since I'm in summer, never there. She then had in between a baby, so we unfortunately had to let it go. And so now the situation allowed me to get back more into it. So I'm, obviously with all the traveling, a lot of travel photography. So I have started now my new website, Nomad's View. And there, right now I'm focusing a lot on travel photography. So I have different groups, heritage, where it's more cultural sites, and abstract also. So I like very much abstract views that allow the viewer more to interpret, to find, to be curious, and for interpretation. I like that very much. Or urban, of course, street photography. So that's also something that I'm very fond of. Nature, of course, is always there. As I said, I spend a lot of time still. When I find time, I spend a lot of time together outside. And then what is my passion for years, but that is always quite complicated, is also printing. So I do alternative printing techniques, which is, for example, gum print. I don't know, from bichromate gum print. So you have Arabic gum, and you have bichromate, so potassium, for example. And so it is, I feel like an alchemist, because I have in my basement, I have my dark room, also to develop photography, but then in my dark room, because it's all light sensible chemistry. So I'm doing that based on negatives, based on photos, big negatives that I developed in here, and then I'm printing those. Or Van Dyck, probably more familiar, or Ciano, the blueprints. So these are just now coming back up again. So this is more labor intensive. So this is why it's complicated when I'm not a lot at home, because it's also the technique, and gotta stay, it's like sports, gotta stay in practice kind of. So now I feel this is a great opportunity to be back. And so now I have just new things coming up. And they are going on the website now the next day, maybe tonight even. And painting also, I do that. So it's something I have to push often. You know how it is. You have to push it a little bit on the side. You do prints too. So I have to push it on the side because I'm just not here long enough. And so now I'm really, really happy about that. So, and I have there, today I just did, can you see it? Can you see something?
Can you grab that and put it to the camera so people can see better?
This is a new one. I just got that ready actually now. So this is a Van Dyck. in the, maybe it reflects because it's in the print. It's a Van Dyck, so it's a brown print Van Dyck that I have also with how do you say, Chinese ink, with ink, the yellow. So I'm drawing on it then. So this is the print, and then drawn on it, and then also so you see the water, which is also the ink.
So this
so
is
mixed.
This is an old-fashioned photograph that's been printed on.
Exactly. In a way, it's a pre-photography technique, one could say. Wow. So it's middle 19th century. I think people are maybe more familiar, or you are maybe, with the blueprints that was often used for plants.
I used to run those when I was a young architect. Yes, I used to have to run those, and I had blue fingers all the time.
Prints like that, so with this color, so the Prussian blue. So this is a different. They are all based on iron, on light sensibility of iron. They're all based on that. So on the way to develop the technique of taking photos or creating photography, they came by these techniques. So Herschel and all these names, and so I'm using this for. Do you need a mixed media? So here there will be also still coming something. I like to, you know it. I like to combine poetry with it and words and
wait,
thoughts.
This is super cool. So wait, is this a photograph you took with a regular film camera?
Yeah. So this is for example, I like that very much. Yeah. So this is a photography. This is a photo that I took of a man. This is in Morocco. I mean, you know, I travel a lot in Morocco. Very much. A man sitting on a wall, just looking out at the sea. So I took this photo. Then what I did, I developed the negative, and I have the negative, and then I print the negative on a transparent. So I have it bigger, the size that I want it. And then I use this, and then I have a paper that I have to treat first, because I have to make sure that it's not so, well, it has to be treated chemically also. And then I add all the chemistry to get the print. So I put that on the paper, I let it dry, I put the negative on, and then I expose it to the sun or to my UV source that I have.
Okay, that's what you're doing. Gotcha.
And then I have to wait. I mean, this is then always this moment where you kind of, you know, how long do I leave it there? How long do I take it out? And then you wash it off, and then you put it in your bucket, or not bucket, in your, how do you call it? Water basin.
Yeah.
You put it in, and then you take it out, and then it has spilled off the chemistry that you don't need. So this is I like that very much. It's very magic. It's a childlike joy for me.
No, it is. And, you know, I have done this before. I don't think I've ever told you this, actually, was that when my kids were little, when we first moved into this house, so I think that Luca was about 5 and Nico was 2, I got a fabric that was treated with that kind of chemical. And I spread it out on our back lawn, and I had the kids put on fairy wings. You know, they had fairy wing costumes, and I had them lay on there with the fairy wings, and then I arranged bamboo around them. And I made a huge canvas. It's like, you know, 8 feet tall, of them kind of like as little fairies. And I still have it. I mean, it was so cool because I had them lay still in the sun. In Seattle, that's tricky, of course. Yeah. And then I took it and I washed it out, and then there was this blue image of the kids looking like fairies.
Yeah, exactly. And you avoid little fairies.
I had no idea that you did that kind of work. That is so much fun.
Gum print, that is interesting too. Gum print is a little bit more complex. So this is with the bichromate. It's a different technique. It's more delicate. I did a lot. I had quite some, when I traveled in Iran, I took a lot of pictures there, and I have a couple gum prints from Iran. So that's yes. So this is, and I'm very excited. And then there's abstract painting and all kind of transfer techniques, but they will come on the website. You check it out. Yeah, it's fun. It's really.
So your art, you're putting all, because you have Treasure Europe, which is your tour site, but then this Nomad's View is going to be just dedicated to your art. Is that right?
Well, right now, yes, but eventually my idea is, and this is where it comes together. I mean, everything is connected, is it? I would start. I did that here, and I will do it probably this year also, but more with a European public photo tours. So particularly not so much schooling, even though it depends, but what I would like to do then more is to show people, I mean, staying in the cultural, I mean, people that like to take pictures generally are interested in the background too, but giving people the time to have enough time to take pictures, showing them the good spots to take pictures. So that's where the combination then comes together with Nomad's View, which is really the gallery. It's a gallery shop, Nomad's View, but also there's a travel section where I talk about my travel activity. And then there's Treasure Europe, which is my company that I run since 2008, where I organize individual and private tours for small groups in Europe, Central Europe. Yeah, I should say.
Very cool.
Right now, the focus is more on Nomad's View, on the photography, to bring that a little bit more back. So I'm in contact in Paris now also with galleries again, up and coming, and a little bit international also. So spending a little bit more time in the Middle East, also to look for other motives, inspiration. I like the desert a lot, so that's why I spend a lot of time also in Morocco, which is very close to here, but then going further, other places. So this, it interlaces Nomad's View and Treasure Europe.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I remember you had done like Christmas market tours you were doing with Treasure Europe, right?
Yes, also at Christmas. I did this wonderful tour that is quite popular. There's actually also this motive is from going up Belgium, Netherlands, and then taking from up there flight down to Morocco. So this was a 2-week tour, like total culture shock and climate, well, not shock, but culture difference and climate difference. But was a great popular tour running, down in Morocco. Well, you work a lot in Morocco too.
I do. I love Morocco. I think Morocco, for me, especially because both of us are kind of an artistic slant, I think Morocco is one of the most visually stunning places I've ever been. It's very inspiring if you're an artist, for sure.
Very diverse also, so many different places. I have to say, I was so often surprised about places. I mean, there's of course the places we know, Marrakesh and so on, but then the Atlas Mountains. So I went up Montjuïc, hiking up the highest mountains in North Africa. And the countryside is just beautiful. I mean, you have to see the mountains, the desert, food is great. People I find very, very nice. They speak, for me, I speak French. Okay, so they speak perfect French, but nevertheless, they also speak perfect English. So that is wonderful. That's easy to travel, I find. Yeah, and I'm very happy. And they have this wonderful argan oil, which I miss. I have to go back. I don't have it anymore. The eating argan oil. I think in the United States, you have more the cosmetic one, no?
Yeah, we get the cosmetic kind, but I bought a couple of bottles of it when I was there last year.
And I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. It's really good for your skin and for your hair and all of that. But I think I've never eaten it.
Oh, it's so good. It's nutty, but it has nothing to do with walnut. It's a very particular. It's quite expensive. I mean, in Morocco, it's much, but it's quite. They're the only producers, which is quite interesting. Nobody else does it, and it's quite labor intensive. So that's definitely, yeah.
I think the thing about Morocco that really struck me is that you're right about the diversity, because there are some parts of Morocco that I swear looks like Sicily. Some of it looks like the North Cascades. Some of it is the desert. And some of it looks like something that just comes out of like Aladdin. It's like a dream. I mean, it's sort of this fairy tale kind of image of what something exotic could look like. So, yeah, I was really surprised about the north of the country, how green it was and alpine looking. I mean, we drove through a part that's called the Switzerland of Morocco, and it really did look like Switzerland.
Oh, it is. I like also what I like, Tanger in the north, really. Tanger, you say, no?
Tangier.
I like that very much. I find it very multicultural, and you have there's a more intense. And then this was in the 50s, the beatnik, that was their hub up there. So a little bit crazy. Has a lot of movie theaters. There are several churches, mosques, synagogues, and it's relatively small. It's on the coast. Really very, very nice. Yeah, there too.
I think we're lucky as artists that we get to travel so much, because I think that the diversity of input that we have put into us really creates an interesting artistic perspective. And I know that inspires your work, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah, it does. I mean, I just, now that I have the time, I travel through my photos, which I hope to do for others too. So I'm sitting there and choose and look, and I have the time to look at a lot of photos that I haven't seen in a while. And it is, yeah, I feel super lucky. And the diversity, it's just, and it's so close together, everything. Also from here, Africa, Morocco is so close. And no, definitely. That's for me the biggest impact or influence is the traveling, definitely. And even though I also take here a lot of pictures or just in nature, everywhere. I have I mean, traveling in the United States, for me, this is, I mean, the classical European speaking here, space, it is unbelievable. I mean, I remember the greatest trip that I did was driving through Arizona. I loved it. Organ pipe, what's it called? National Park. Beautiful. Down in the south, on the Mexican border. It was great. Oh, wonderful. And risky in snow. That's crazy there.
Well, and it's nice to hear you say that, because from my perspective, I just feel like, I'm stuck in the United States right now and there's nothing to do. But I know for Europeans, you guys come here and you're like, wow, there's so much to do here that's different.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, you have to, I mean, for us, of course, it is this what you come here, well, not you, but maybe a lot of Americans come here and say, oh my God, all these old stones and old churches and old houses, you know, with the grass is greener on the other side. And we go over there and look at that. There's a street, there's a road, and I cannot see the end. We don't have that. We don't have roads without ends. We see it always the end. I'm always, when I start driving, and I do this naive thing, I think a lot of Europeans do, so I think like, oh, gas station, that's gonna be fine. And then I start driving, and then I think like, oh, I should have put more gas in, because that seems really like a long, long road, a far distance, and there's nothing. It's wonderful, it's beautiful. I enjoy it very much.
Well, and I think that is always the big marker between, I think, Americans and Europeans, is that thing that, you know, Francesca always says, that 100 years is a short amount of time for a European, but 100 miles is a really long way. And that's, for me, it you know, I think, oh, maybe I need to buy a new computer, so maybe I'll just get in the car and drive to Portland, and that's like 3 hours. That doesn't seem very far to me, but for a European, that's like crazy.
You know, I remember, yes, I remember, it's a different country. You go to a different country.
Or several.
I remember that, and it's true, when you ask in the United States, when you ask somebody for the way, so you drive, well, generally you drive, so you ask somebody, so where is this and this? The person, it happened several times to me, always would say, it's not far, just drive down there. And, you know, then you take to the left, to the right, whatever. It's not very far. You're there right away. And so I start driving, and several times I'm like, okay, I must be wrong, because I'm driving already now for half an hour. I drive forever. This is 10 miles. This is far. And so for the person, it's not. For me, it's far. And it's the same here. An American would ask me, even though I try to pay it, I try not to do that. But let's just imagine one of our guests asked, how far is it? It's not far. Just start walking. 5 kilometers later, for me, it's not far maybe, but for the person to walk 5 kilometers is far. So it's, yeah, it's relative. Yeah. It's all relative, isn't it? Nothing is normal.
But the relativity, I think, is such an interesting concept, you know, as an artist to explore, you know, and that's something that I would love to sit down and kind of figure out how to express, because I think that just as people like you and I, who have been so influenced by different cultures, our brains are kind of soup in the sense that we can think in multiple different modes, and we see how everything sort of fits together. And, you know, trying to express that as an artist is a really difficult thing. But I always really love your photography, because it always feels to me like that is the heart of what you express, is like the conflicts and the connections.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I do. I find it, for me, what I find, what I would like to express is that in normal, you know, real normal, or not normal, or just the ordinary, in the ordinary, the particularity I'd like to express there, because there is, or in a subject, or maybe you, I don't know, maybe you have seen it on the website, the scream, the little figure that I have there. There's this, check it out. It's on the website. It's the feature of the day also. So there's, when you come down the Rialto Bridge, there was in the window, there was the figure of Munch's scream as a little glass figurine. And so I look in this window, I see this figurine, I recognize Munch's scream in this figurine, and in the back I see the reflection. I love reflection of it. I see people coming down the stairs of the Rialto Bridge, and so it was like as if this figurine is screaming, you know, of, oh, people are storming towards me, I'm Venice, oh my God, I'm afraid. So, and I found that, look at this is perfect. And I was putting this up now and thought, with the situation how it is now, look at this, a couple months ago, everyone would have understood that we are talking over tourism and so on, the whole problematic for Venice. And now the problematic has totally changed. So what I find interesting is that we only see and recognize in the photos, it's our own story, you know. So the story changes with our everyday life. So you come with a different background, you read something totally different in my photography, in some of the abstract photos, or in any of them, and than I do. And I like always to invite people to, I propose my story, but I'm curious what people see. So I always like to keep it open, and that's why I like reflection, different layers, to open interpretation and stories. So yeah, and it's very complex, and there's a lot of exchange. And I have had on the tour and in general with people, and when they in the gallery, and now also with the contact, people write me and tell me about what they think about my ideas, what I propose on the website. I propose ideas with some of the photos also, because I want people to, yeah, I'm a guide, so I want to share something with it. And it's great, these conversations that we have. And yes, so.
I think that gets to the heart of also why I love being a tour guide, because you and I come from very different backgrounds. You have an art history background. I am an architect, and what I think has attracted me, and I think a lot of other people, when you think about it, all of our tour guiding colleagues come from completely different points of view and backgrounds. But what's cool is that being a guide is sort of an artistic blank canvas, because from that you can become a storyteller. You can tell stories through architecture, you can tell them through art, and it's really sort of, it is an artistic job when you think of it that way, you know.
Artistic, yes, I would say it's very creative. I mean, it's there's a lot of creativity in the sense of, you try to find ways to propose a message, and what the beauty is, in a way, in a lot of ways, I find with art then, is that there is no right or wrong. So obviously when I travel, then I have a lot of discussions about art, but also with people when they show me their photography. Yeah, you see that there is no right or wrong, and everyone is right, and also with liking or not liking. So there's nobody to blame, which is something that I appreciate very much, and I like to encourage people very much to that, because often we are kind of intimidated by art and gallery and all this, and by the whole scene, which is, I come to the conclusion, I'm very amused by a lot of the art and gallery scene, and enjoy it very much that way. But yeah, so this is it's beautiful. It opens a lot of doors to communication and for thinking also. And so like I said, so I combine often poetry and words or thoughts just every day. Like now there's a lot going on. Now what's going on in our world is, I see it or I feel it in my head. There's a lot going on that wants to come out into something, and I can use photos that I've taken a long time ago and have them carry a totally different message than I would have had maybe a year ago.
Yeah, which, I've been feeling that too, and it's sort of, I feel like something is sort of percolating, and I don't know what media to express the feeling that all of this has brought to fore. I mean, I'm thinking about designing clothes. Like, that's something, for some reason, I feel like I need to express myself through.
We were talking about a dress years ago. Do you remember? We were talking about that you make me a dress years ago.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. That's on my project list then, because I actually had the whole pattern and I had the fabric and everything. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to make you a dress because, yeah, you are such you would be the perfect model for sort of the fashion ideas I have going through my head right now. So, but I don't know what it is about all of this that makes me, I mean, why is it that that seems to be the way that I personally want to express this quarantine thing in fashion? I don't know. But that's kind of what will be the interesting legacy of this moment is how do we all react to it? How do we express the feelings? I mean, because you and I have had a lot of personal conversations just about our own trials with this moment. And how is that going to come out as an artistic statement? That's going to be, I think, what's quite interesting at the end of all of it. And there will be an end, right?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. And I think in general it's quite interesting because we look with this is what I also try. I mean, we have talked a little bit about it, but when we talk to people about art that was made maybe in the 1500s, so the crisis manual and changes in the world, and Martin Luther comes up and so on. So a change, a big crisis. So here we live, but then when we have these crises in our time, which is this right now. And the artists that are living now, I'm not saying that everyone is a great Renaissance artist, but anyway, so the creatives that are living now, they are expressing that. They are living to that. They're just normal people. They live through a crisis like they did back then. And of course, it will find its way into art, and it will be a quite dramatic, I think, dramatic art that will come out of it. But dramatic in both senses, I think, quite violent maybe, but on the other side also with a lot of emotion and with a lot of empathy and compassion and understanding, solidarity, all the things we should have now.
So speaking of that, I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about what's going on in France, what you're seeing, because, here in the United States, I think that we feel like we're kind of the outcasts because we have not gotten the coronavirus under control here. And, I know in Seattle, we're not allowed to leave our houses without a mask on. So what's going on in France? What is the situation now?
So we are in deconfinement now since the 11th of March, was it? No? Yeah, I think, no, not March. What do we have for the 4th week now? And so people are out because I just came back. Yeah. People are out and about and officially, so we're in the 2nd stage. People are, when they leave the house, they don't have to wear masks. But if you're in a public space, interior space, or also a restaurant inside, you have to wear a mask. That is the rule. Then what else do we have? Well, outside, so tables in restaurants cannot be bigger than 10 people, even though that will be lifted, I think, next weekend. If it's still like that, yeah, not more than 10 people. Otherwise, it is all pretty open again. And I have to say, I'm struggling quite a bit. I think the really difficult period for all countries, and I see that also in Germany. I mean, you have heard probably of the recent cases now in Germany again and so. But the problem is that here I see a lot of people without masks. Outside walking around anyway, nobody wears a mask. But then there people sit in restaurants. Well, the distance between the tables in the restaurants, for example, it has to be 1 meter. Movie theaters have opened this weekend, but every other seat only is allowed. So there is this distancing also. Nevertheless, I'm not sure that in all restaurants it's done. I see a lot of people that don't wear the mask. So I do not, and when I look, so I'm looking also at Italian news like you do, I look at German news. It is, it's in every country the same that people struggle to, I think people struggle with their mind when their life gets back to normal in a way. They go back to work now. And I think our beautiful mind has the capacity to make us believe that everything is good again. And people start acting as if everything is good again. So we had the Fête de la Musique here, the music festival, the 21st of June. I probably have heard in Paris, there were so many people out and about partying. In Germany too, they are coming all together again. So of course in the United States you have demonstrations. So here it's about partying. People are not very, so yeah, it's difficult. And so now what it is, of course, and this is something that goes along around in my head very much, it's what is happening now. So you have these groups. Some people say, we have had it anyway, we don't know. There's not a lot of testing going on here. Some people say, well, how long should we wait? We just go for it. And others want distance. Then it's, of course, that's why I'm mentioning solidarity. In supermarkets, normally you have to wear a mask, but a lot of people don't. And there is nobody at the door that says you cannot come in. So people are exposed. I'm going outside with a mask, but I have maybe somebody close to me that is not wearing a mask. And I'm afraid that there is this again, a polarization. So it's the ones with the mask, the ones with the helmet, the ones with the mask annoy the people without the mask because it shows them kind of like a mirror. No, the world is not good. It's not back to normal.
Yeah.
So it is complex, very complex. And in Germany, it's the same. It's also complex.
Well, and I think that you and I are both more on the cautious end of things. And one of the feelings that I have been having, I'm going to go on a little mini vacation with my parents next week. And for me, just the idea of going back out into trying to be the way things were feels a little stressful. It feels a little stressful because my house has become kind of my safe cocoon. And the idea of going out, I think, feels a little odd, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm more used to it, but it does feel odd to me when I see people around me, a lot of people around me that are feeling, where I have the feeling there is no consciousness at all. And then I'm wondering, and what it is, I have to say, so I do have the feeling that very often, even though sometimes not very often, that it just doesn't feel the same. It feels heavy, but I don't know if it's me or if it's the energy that people carry with them. I mean, I believe in that. So I don't know if it's me that is just not light. I miss lightness. Everything is charged, and of course everything is tense still. We don't know anything. Everything is insecure, and so nobody really knows what's gonna happen. So it's it's complicated. Yeah, it doesn't feel the same so far, and it should not. I mean, and then we have the people that here that tell you, I said, well, the mask is fine, I don't worry. And I want to say, well, you should worry, shouldn't you? It's funny. It's I don't know. But what makes me sad is because I don't want to find myself in the situation where I stand there and say, what's wrong with you people? I'm disenchanted a little bit. I wonder, and I wonder also about the humanism and solidarity and understanding for others, and how egoistic people are. And so I find myself, was I really so naive? And that I don't want to think like that. But well, I hope I'm wrong. And at the end.
But I think the important thing to note in the things that you and I have been talking about is that I think that we in the US feel, at least I feel, a little bit ashamed of our general lack of respect for, rules and quarantines and social distancing and all of that. But it's not just the US. And that's the thing I think we're missing in the media,
But this is, I mean, I think it's extreme, but I mean, I'm just throwing that now out here at the end like this. But it's like most of the time, everything is a little bit more extreme in the United States. If it goes in a direction, it's over the top. I mean, not it's a little bit more extreme. You have that in Germany. It's the same thing. People want to do their own thing, but then in Germany, nobody talks about really, but they also do their own thing. And you have people are people. I mean, I do think there are cultural differences in the sense of you cannot apply what worked in Sweden, in France, or in the United States already demographically, and so on and so on. But I think there's also culturally, or Italy or France, you cannot do the same thing as you did in Sweden, and people just wouldn't listen so well. I heard an interview, a Portuguese woman was saying, she said, well, now they're back again, but in confinement. But she said, it's good that they force us with a fine to wear the mask, because we are not disciplined. We would not do it if they wouldn't force us. And I have been, in a place during confinement also where there was no confinement actually, but people were, sorry, it fell down. People were forced to wear masks at all time, but there was no confinement. I also think this here now, and in Italy and maybe in other places, is a reaction to this having the feeling being locked up by the government. And now suddenly, and here it is a little bit, now they're out, and it's like, whew, so now I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And then they just do whatever. There is no right or wrong. I cannot say what is better, but it seems to me everything a little bit, this forcing, I don't know if that was so good. And now there is not really a guiding back to normal, or what normal's gonna be now, the new normal, and now people go on vacation. That's the only thing what they think about.
Well, and I absolutely agree with you that this is the anxiety I feel beyond, the fact that all of this affects our ability to actually have jobs and work in tourism. The bigger issue that I feel is that there is no uniform worldwide approach. I mean, we as a world should all have the same approach because it's the same problem for everybody.
Well, it is difficult nevertheless. I mean, financially already, not every country can, so a mask here costs 10 cents, where a mask cost 1 cent. So masks were available where it was all the time, here not. So this is
here at least $1.50 to $2 each.
Yeah. So it is, there are, and then people, as I said, so I agree totally with you, we should, and it's probably the only way. I mean, already in the you see it in the US with the different states treating it differently, that it doesn't work. We see it here in Europe, that it doesn't work we see that. For me, what I come to the conclusion in a way is everything has changed, but how we deal with things and how people are in different countries, how individuals are, at the end, nothing has changed. It just intensifies, really. Everything is intensified. And people that were solidarity before, they are now people that didn't care before. They don't care now. So it's, I find it, it is worldwide. Yeah, we should. I don't think it's possible, but it should be better. I think the guiding through the deconfinement, through this period now, because this is the difficult period now. Here in France, I would wish that would be a little bit better, and even if it has to be with more clearer rules in a way. But I don't know. I have the feeling that the governments say, this is really, they say, let them go out, let them do their thing. We see what's going to happen. Economy, it's about, and we see at the end of vacation who comes back. I really have to, I really have to feel, let them run. There was no guiding at all about the Fête de la Musique. There were thousands people in Paris on the streets. There was nobody said it's forbidden. I mean, they said it's forbidden, but nobody was there to forbid it actually. And so I don't know.
Well, and it's a frustration, I think, particularly for people in our line of work, because it affects us disproportionately in terms of if we can't get this under control, then Americans can't travel. And if Europe is on fire again, nobody's going to want to go to Europe. So yeah, it's sort of like a self-perpetuating cycle, isn't it?
No, it is absolutely right. And we have, for us here also, so now, because a lot of people here think that, Europeans are coming and traveling. It's not that so many people come, and there's a different style of traveling for me personally and for a lot of friends of mine. So for me, it's zero. That's why we're trying to look for alternatives and what we can do. And but it's gonna be very difficult.
Yeah. Well, the way I'm looking at it is this is at least a good time for some of us to kind of sit back and reflect. I personally was getting way too busy and too many things on my plate. So in a sense, having a mandatory timeout is maybe good for me, for my health at least. So I'm trying to look at it in a good way.
I try every day to tell myself it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to catch up with a lot of things that are going on in my mind, and and things that I wanted to do. Also, I don't know, but for me, it was always the feeling that in between tours for a couple of days at home, it's always for years and years, my life was about priorities, to prioritize somebody that I want to see. I have 5 days off. I see this person, that person. I want to be by myself. I need to do this because life continues on off the road here too. So business, like just administration and stuff. And now it's kind of interesting. Of course, it's really a big change, but there is no priority. And this is, of course, I think for people like us, a little bit the danger to get kind of lost in this non-priority. But I try to see the good and make it somehow through the practical challenges that there are, and see how long it's gonna go, and it's gonna day by day in a way, and but it's not gonna be easy, I think. So
well, I think
not gonna.
One of the positives that's come out of this is these like daily kind of activities that I'm doing. I mean, chatting with you, I feel like as a community of guides, we're more connected than we ever have been. I mean,
me too, absolutely. I was just saying that to a friend also. I said, this is definitely, I'm spending more time with a lot of dear colleagues, and also people that I normally don't see so much because they are guiding in Spain where I'm not, or so yeah. I mean, we don't run into each other all the time. I mean, we chat like this, but no, and I think also it's really important because at least here I have the feeling, since almost everyone is back to work one way or the other. Of course, there are a lot of people that have lost their jobs. That's of course, but a lot of people also not. It is hard for people to understand the situation now also. So there are still people out there that have their job is not back yet. And I think then we live that very different than the people that go back to work again. And
I think they're not normal for us. Yeah, and they can't be normal for us.
I cannot really find too much normality right now, I have to say. Trying to look for it, but I can't find it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. And, I think I've been through a lot of pretty serious drama in my life. And the one thing I always take from it is that opportunity is the sister of despair. So every time there is tragedy, there is always an opportunity somewhere. And so I think that's kind of the job right now of all of us as tour guides, is to kind of discover what is the opportunity there. And I mean, for you, I think it's fantastic to see you working in your art again.
That's why I said also, so I was very lucky that the website, my boyfriend, he created the website, and so that we have that up and running and helping me, and that I good.
Oh, sorry, we had a little blip there. Sorry. My internet dropped for a second there. So anyway, but this has been so nice to talk to you, Daniela. And I really, really am so pleased to see you back at doing your art, because that's always been a thing that I know has been more your passion than anything else.
No, I'm happy. I'm absolutely happy. So thrilled about the new stuff now. I'm very happy that with the photos, and that the prints are coming now. And I like the idea, Nomad's View. I'm very happy that we call it like that. And so considering as a nomad out there. Yeah.
So if people would like to get in touch with you and see what kind of art you're doing, your tour website is treasureeurope.com with a hyphen.
Not hyphen. What is it? Minus?
Hyphen. treasure-europe.com. And you're going to be offering small group tours next year, right? Yeah. Yes. So if you want to travel with Daniela, which I highly recommend because she's fantastic, you can take an individual tour with her starting next year, treasure-europe.com. And if you would like to take a look at her beautiful artwork, which I think is really quite stunning, you can look at her new website, which is nomadsview.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. She also posts on Facebook, so if you'd like to follow her on Facebook, it's her Nomads View. I'll repost some of her posts from Nomads View, so if you'd like to follow her there, you can follow her there.
And a lot out on the bike rides, so it's nice. A lot of provincial countryside.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'll repost one of those so that everybody watching, if you'd like to give her a follow, you absolutely can. All right, my dear. Lots of love to you.
Thank you.
I miss you, and I wish we could have a spritz together, but soon. I hope.
Soon. Ciao, ciao.
All right. Ciao, Daniela. Thanks for joining us today. See everybody later. So coming up this week, just other events we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing Cucina Quarantena for the next few days. And then Friday, I'll have my friend Danielle Oteri coming, who's going to be discussing art history and Southern Italy. So see you guys tomorrow on Cucina Quarantena. Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.